They thought they could measure your worth with their eyes until your energy exposed their soul. Now imagine this for a moment, chosen one. You walk into a room and everything shifts. Not because you say a word, not because you demand attention, but because your presence carries a weight they can't explain. And yet they look at your life, your quiet strength, your silent victories, and they assume it's all luck. They think, how could someone like you be favored by the universe? How could someone so calm, so humble, hold such power? But here's a fact that most people miss. The universe doesn't crown the loudest. It chooses the most aligned. And when you're aligned, even in silence, the energy around you speaks volumes. That's what they didn't see. That's what they tried to challenge. They underestimated your rank in the unseen, and that was their biggest mistake. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message forward by simply pressing like and subscribe to help spread this truth to more souls. It's not just a click, it's part of the mission. You are the part of a force, a light, a movement. Thank you for showing up today. Let's continue. Now, back to the ones who tested you. Someone in your orbit made a serious miscalculation. They observed your peace and mistook it for weakness. They saw your grace and thought it meant you were unaware. They assumed your silence meant absence, not wisdom. But they weren't ready for what followed. They didn't know that every test they threw at you activated forces they didn't even believe in. See, when you're chosen, you don't fight battles like everyone else. You don't shout. You don't swing. You don't need to. Because the very fabric of the universe bends around the spiritually ranked, and your ranking was never up for debate, only hidden from their eyes. They smiled in your face, pretended to cheer for you, but underneath they were running calculations, comparing, competing, and when that wasn't enough, they decided to interfere, not in the open, but in secret, behind closed doors, behind fake support, behind envious glances. They tried to move against you, but not in ways you could see. They played in subtle fields, in shadows, in energy. They may have whispered lies, planted doubts, tried to pull you down in ways that could never be traced back to them. But what they didn't understand is this. The universe sees energy, not words. It weighs intent, not appearances. So the moment they moved with envy in their heart, the universe responded, not to what they did, but to who you are. And you're not just protected, you're ranked. You're backed by unseen laws that don't bend to petty minds. See, spiritual rank isn't something you brag about. It's something you carry, quietly, powerfully. Like a lion doesn't roar to prove it's king. It only roars when necessary, and when it does, the jungle listens. So when they tested you, they weren't just testing your patience. They were testing the natural order, and nature doesn't forgive imbalance. Let them watch now. Let them realize. Every attempt to harm you has only revealed your elevation. Every whisper behind your back became a trumpet for your truth. You were chosen long before they tried to compete, ranked long before they tried to pretend, protected long before they thought of their attack. And now, the fallout isn't just spiritual, it's energetic, emotional, and in some cases, it's physical. Because energy never lies, and when someone touches a force they don't understand, that force answers back. This is why they're confused now, why they're losing sleep while you rest in peace, why things are falling apart for them while new doors are opening for you. The universe is rebalancing, and your presence alone is shifting the scales. So remember this, chosen one. They were unaware of your spiritual rank until they tested it. But now they're learning. And you just keep rising. So, chosen one, if this message is pulling at something deep inside you, it's not by accident. That's your inner power responding to truth, because your spiritual rank was never meant to stay hidden. Drop a comment below with the number 777 if you're ready to walk in that truth fully. And if this message speaks to your soul, fuel this mission with a gift of any kind, your energy, your comment, your support, because it's your belief that helps this light reach others like you. Whether it's a cent or a share, it echoes louder than you think. And now, let's go deeper, step by step. And believe me, if you're truly chosen, you'll feel the pull to stay until the end. Let's begin. Number 1. You didn't wake the human, you provoked the force within. You didn't just pick a fight with a person, you triggered a storm that's been waiting generations to rise. They thought you were soft, simple, someone they could twist, push, sabotage behind the scenes without consequence. They thought they were slick, clever, moving in silence, not realizing they just sounded an alarm across a realm they can't even comprehend. Chosen one, you didn't ask for this war, but once they moved against your energy, the rules changed. The universe responded. Let this sink in. The moment they tried to manipulate your path, block your blessings, distort your frequency, they didn't just go up against you. They entered a dimension where truth cannot be faked, power cannot be imitated, and spiritual rank is the only currency that counts. They stumbled into territory where masks are torn off and hidden motives get exposed by the light they never saw coming. They thought you were alone, but you are backed by generations of resilience. Every attack sent your way awakened layers of power even you hadn't fully accessed yet. That's the irony. In trying to weaken you, they became the very reason you activated. Their betrayal, their interference. It cracked the shell, shook the ground, and let the true version of you rise through the rubble. Picture this. A volcano lying dormant beneath a quiet landscape. No smoke, no warning. But deep beneath the surface, pressure builds. And then the fool comes poking around, disturbing what should have been left untouched. That's what they did. They kicked the ground under your feet, thinking they were scratching dirt. They didn't know they were standing over fire. They tried to drag you into conflict, thinking you'd panic. They were ready for arguments, back and forth games, maybe even a breakdown. But instead, you went quiet. And that silence, that's what scared them most. Because deep down, something in their spirit realized this wasn't a game anymore. You didn't retaliate, you activated. The spiritual rank you carry isn't printed on your forehead. It's embedded in your presence. It doesn't scream, it echoes. And when tampered with, it sends out waves that disturb the very energy around those who dare to interfere. And maybe now they're feeling it. The confusion, the sudden weight in the air, the opportunities slipping from their fingers. The tension they can't explain, the chaos they planted now growing in their garden. Here's what they never understood. When someone touches a chosen one with impure hands, they aren't just interfering with a person's life. They're interfering with a purpose. And the universe doesn't play when it comes to purpose. You weren't placed here randomly. You carry weight. You carry design. And when they tamper with that design, the balance corrects itself, but not softly. They asked for a storm they can't walk through. You may ask, why me? Why do they target me? Because your light exposes what they pretend to be. Because your calm threatens their control. Because your energy feels like a mirror that shows them who they're not. But most of all, because they sensed your spiritual rank before you even fully knew it yourself. They sensed it in the way people listen when you speak, They sensed it in the way you bounce back from things that should have destroyed you. They sensed it in the way life seems to rearrange itself to protect you from hidden danger. And instead of being inspired, they got triggered. Instead of growing, they got envious. Instead of rising, they plotted. They didn't realize, when they stepped into that spiritual realm to mess with your path, they weren't just playing with energy. They were signing an invisible contract with consequences. They were activating laws that don't ask for proof. These laws know. So now they're being dealt with, not by you, but by the force that walks with you. Every ancestor who overcame attacks like this, every universal protection assigned to your name, every unseen hand that's been shielding you in silence. Because here's the reality: when someone touches a chosen one through sabotage, they awaken every power that's been waiting silently in the background. The backup isn't just real, it's generational, it's cosmic, it's strategic. It's been here before, it's dealt with worse, and it never misses. They thought they were playing chess while you were playing checkers. Truth is, they weren't even on the board. They didn't realize the game changed the moment they attacked someone they couldn't spiritually outrank. And now they're watching you walk through storms they thought would break you. They're witnessing you stay elevated while they spiral. They're experiencing the recoil of energy they once sent in your direction. Because you don't have to lift a finger. The laws are already in motion. You don't have to expose them. Their results will do that. You don't have to prove your power. Their downfall will confirm it. You weren't meant to live quiet forever. You were meant to be hidden until tested. And they were the test. They didn't come to destroy you. They came to reveal you. So now, walk boldly. Every time they tried to shake you, they pulled back the curtain on a power they never expected. Every time they tried to spiritually interfere, they unknowingly handed you the keys to your next level. You are not the same. You've been activated, not because you sought revenge, but because they pushed too far, because they assumed too much, because they tested something sacred. And the universe does not let sacred things go untouched without consequence. They thought they could pull you down and ended up elevating you instead. Now they must watch you walk in what they tried to take. This isn't revenge. This is revelation. They were unaware of your spiritual rank until they tested it. And now it's too late. Number 2, they moved in shadows, not knowing the light was watching. They thought their whispers would stay hidden, but the universe hears what the soul speaks, even in silence. It didn't start with lightning, it started with whispers, soft interference, subtle resistance. They didn't throw punches, they planted seeds, seeds of confusion, seeds of delay, seeds meant to sprout into sabotage so quietly, you'd question if anything was even happening at all. And that was the trick, to make you doubt your own alignment before you could ever trace the source of the interference. Imagine this, chosen one. You wake up one day and the air around you feels different. It's heavier, not like grief, but like static. Your instincts say something's off, but there's no smoke, no fire, just a quiet distortion in your energy. The kind that's hard to describe, but impossible to ignore. You try to focus, but everything that once flowed with ease now stutters and drags. Messages aren't getting through. Conversations turn sideways. Plans fall through last minute. And you wonder, is this just a bad week? Is this something I did? Am I overthinking? But no, you're not overthinking. You're being targeted. Not in the way the average person would notice, but in the way only the spiritually ranked would feel. They didn't throw bricks. They sent waves. They shifted frequencies, hoping you'd drown quietly in confusion. Quote this: They didn't attack your body, they attacked your atmosphere. That's how this began. Not with confrontation, but contamination. They introduced static into your signal, emotional glitches, invisible detours, malfunctions in moments that used to be effortless. You'd walk into rooms and feel energy shift. Phones would glitch, messages wouldn't deliver, deals would stall. You weren't just losing momentum, you were being spiritually jammed. They knew better than to attack you openly. That would expose them too quickly. No, they came sideways, through energy, through influence, through tiny misfires that built up just enough pressure to weigh down your spirit, but not enough to make it obvious. Imagine trying to swim upstream, but the water looks calm on the surface. Every stroke feels heavier, every move takes more effort. You're still moving, but slower, more exhausted, less certain. And that's what they wanted, to drag your pace just enough to make you question your path. And as you tried to make sense of it, they watched. Not from a distance, but from behind masks. They smiled at your confusion, took credit for your losses, celebrated when things slipped through your fingers. Every delayed message, every opportunity that vanished, every person that started pulling away, they saw these not as coincidences, but as proof that their tactics were working. They thought your struggles meant they were winning. What they didn't realize is that the universe was letting them get comfortable. Because the spiritual realm isn't impulsive, it's intelligent, calculated, like an immune system. It doesn't lash out. It studies, it scans, it identifies the exact source of the threat, and then it reacts, not with panic, but with precision. They mistook silence for surrender, but the universe was just preparing the strike. The delay between their attack and the consequence gave them a dangerous illusion that their methods were untouchable, so they escalated. They stopped with energy games and moved into influence. They recruited, whispered poison into ears, planted narratives designed to isolate you, make you look unstable, ungrateful, arrogant. They took your light and painted it as manipulation, took your strength and sold it as ego, and the people who already carried fragments of jealousy. They latched on immediately. Now imagine this. You're standing in a room full of people you once trusted, and suddenly the air feels cold. Their laughter isn't genuine. Their compliments feel off. You notice certain people looking away when you speak. Conversations dry up when you enter. This isn't paranoia. This is spiritual distancing. And you wonder again, what changed? Why are they turning on me? What did I do? Here's the answer. You didn't do anything. They did. You were the mirror. You reflected something they couldn't stand to face in themselves. So instead of healing it, they tried to smear you. And the ones who joined them, they were already halfway down that road. They just needed someone bold enough to take the lead. But here's where everything shifted. Again, because when they expanded the attack from whispers to warfare, the universe snapped to attention. They weren't just poking anymore. They were trying to tear down divine architecture, and the universe doesn't tolerate that. They thought they were building a case against you, but they were building a curse around themselves. Every word they spoke against you became a record. Every action, every intention, every person they recruited logged in spiritual code. Why? Because attacks against the chosen don't dissolve. They boomerang, and the longer the delay, the harder the return. They thought the weight you were carrying was a sign that they'd succeeded. What they didn't know was that pressure was power building under discipline, and every ounce of interference they threw at you became fuel, not for destruction, but for evolution. They thought they were burying you in setbacks. They were actually building your stage. Quote this: They wrote chapters in your downfall, not knowing they were scripting your rise. And now you move differently. Not because you're afraid, but because you understand. You've seen what spiritual sabotage looks like. You've watched people smile with venom. You've felt the sting of subtle attacks. And still, you rose. Still, you speak. Still, you love. Still, you shine. That's why they're uneasy, because despite everything, you didn't fall. You evolved. You became more aware, sharper, harder to reach. They can't access you the way they used to, and that, chosen one, is their true punishment. They tried to dim you, but only illuminated your rank. They tested you and triggered your transformation. They underestimated the forces you walk with, and now they must deal with the fallout. So let them whisper, let them watch, let them wrestle with the energy they stirred up. You don't owe revenge. The truth will do that on its own. Because when it's all said and done, they'll realize you weren't the one unraveling. You were the one awakening. And every move they made against you only helped you remember exactly who you are. Number 3, they didn't just join the drama, they enlisted in a cosmic war. When they sided against you, they didn't join a rumor. They signed up for karma. They thought they were just tagging along, just listening, just sharing their opinion. But in the realm of energy, neutrality doesn't exist. The moment someone chose to side with the attack, whether by word, silence, or passive participation, they became marked. Not by you, but by a law far greater than their petty alliances. Because energy doesn't care about excuses. The universe doesn't need proof beyond intention. And the second they joined the smear, the sabotage, the whisper campaign against a ranked soul, they enrolled themselves in the same karmic curriculum as the original attacker. Imagine this. A fire is started in a forest. The one who lit the match is clearly to blame. But every hand that fed it, every person who fanned the smoke, even those who simply watched and let it burn, all of them are now being tracked by the laws that govern the forest itself. The elements don't discriminate. Every contributor gets scorched. And chosen one, while this chaos circled around you, you kept walking, kept breathing, kept showing up. Yes, you felt it, the weight, the tension, that strange energetic pressure building in the background. But you didn't fold, you didn't lash out, you didn't even fully know what was happening, but somewhere deep inside, you knew something was watching, balancing, calculating. That's because your rank operates from alignment, not ego. You didn't need to defend yourself because universal law was already doing it for you. They thought this was personal. The universe knew it was principle. Each new participant who joined the attack thought they were acting freely. But the moment they moved against someone spiritually ranked, they triggered something irreversible, a cosmic audit. Every whisper now has weight. Every smirk now has a signature. Every petty word recorded by a system that never forgets. And no, the universe doesn't hit all at once. That's what makes it dangerous. It observes, tailors the lesson, responds based on who they are, what they understood, and how far they went. Some will lose support. Others will lose peace. Some may never even connect the dots. But the results will speak loud enough. So if you're wondering, why didn't I strike back? It's because you didn't have to. You're not in their class. You're the reason the lesson exists. Number 4, grace was your weapon, and it shook their entire foundation. You didn't fight fire with fire. You let their own flames burn them down. They came at you with everything they had: manipulation, sabotage, silent attacks, envy disguised as concern. They were banking on your collapse, counting on your reaction, waiting for the moment you would break character and fight back from a place of emotion, weakness, or ego. But you didn't. You chose grace, and that alone sent shockwaves through their entire operation. See, Chosen One, your silence wasn't surrender, it was strength. Your stillness wasn't passivity, it was strategy. You knew something they didn't. The universe doesn't need your revenge to deliver its justice. So you continued doing what you've always done, operating with integrity. You kept your energy clean, your hands untainted. Even when you could feel the weight of betrayal press into your skin, even when your intuition screamed that certain smiles were fake and certain allies were leaking, you never dropped to their level. And that's what broke them. Imagine this. A storm is circling a mountain, throwing wind, rain, and chaos at it for days. But the mountain does not move, it doesn't roar, it doesn't crumble. It simply stands, letting the storm reveal its own limits. That was you, Chosen One. You were the mountain and the storm. It exhausted itself trying to move you. They expected you to lash out, to expose yourself, to make a mistake they could use as ammunition. But what happened instead? You glowed harder, you moved wiser, you became quieter, calmer, and more focused. And in that calmness, their own energy started to unravel. They tried to provoke you into destroying yourself, but ended up triggering their own downfall. At first, they were confused. How could you still be smiling? Why weren't you spiraling? How could someone carry so much pressure with so much peace? They didn't realize that when you're spiritually ranked, your source of strength isn't external, it's internal. They were playing on a board of appearances. You were walking in alignment. And then the shift came. One by one, the chaos they designed for you turned around. The confusion now wrapped around them, the tension now sitting in their homes, the setbacks, the blockages, the draining of life force. They felt it all, but worse, amplified. One attacker found their financial foundation collapsing, sources of income dried up, unexpected expenses flooded in. Everything they tried to build now felt like sand slipping through their fingers. Another watched their reputation begin to decay. Secrets they buried years ago clawed their way back to the surface. People began questioning their image, doubting their motives, walking away without explanation. A third, their health shifted, slowly at first. Fatigue that didn't make sense, brain fog, emotional heaviness. Even doctors couldn't give them answers because the root wasn't physical, it was energetic. You kept your hands clean, and the universe did the dirty work. This is cosmic law in motion, not fueled by hate, but by balance. You didn't retaliate because you didn't have to. Your only job was to not interfere with what the universe was already preparing behind the scenes. And now, justice is unfolding, quietly, precisely, powerfully. They thought they were immune. They thought your grace was weakness, but grace, Chosen One, is the highest form of strength. And it was the very thing that exposed their darkness for what it truly was. Number 5. They didn't launch an attack. They enrolled in a cosmic masterclass. The universe doesn't send warnings when it's time to teach. It just brings the lesson, and the test is always open book. They thought they could harm you and walk away untouched, thought their actions would float out into the void, lost in the noise of everyday life. What they didn't realize is that the universe takes spiritual offenses personally, especially when those offenses are directed at a ranked soul. And what came next wasn't punishment. It was education, brutal, tailored, precise. Each attacker received consequences perfectly customized to their own fears, flaws, and weak points. Not out of cruelty, but to deliver a lesson they could not ignore. This wasn't karma being vague. This was the universe turning their own energy into curriculum. Imagine a student trying to cheat the system, only to find out the system was the teacher, and the classroom is rigged to respond to every move they make. They weren't just participants in a spiritual war anymore. They were now students in a school they never applied to, being taught through their own downfall. They started facing setbacks, blocked roads, strange losses, but still they didn't get it. They called it bad luck. They blamed timing. They pointed fingers at co-workers, exes, the economy, even the stars. Everything except themselves. They thought if they hit harder, they'd break through. They doubled down, gathered allies, recruited more shadows. They tried new tactics, believing your protection could be worn down like stone under rain. But protection born from cosmic authority isn't stone, it's air, and you can't punch what you can't touch. What they didn't know is this. Every ounce of force they sent your way was counted, measured, and converted into fuel. Not for your destruction, but for your elevation. Your spiritual rank is not passive, it's reactive. The more pressure they applied, the stronger your cosmic reinforcements became. Every jab became justification for more divine defense. Every scheme advertised your need for expansion, and the universe delivered, on time and with interest. Suddenly, things began to shift. Not for them, for you. Doors opened where there were once walls. People in power began to notice your name in rooms you hadn't even entered. Resources started showing up from unexpected corners. The very success they were desperate to block began accelerating. Imagine them watching you rise, while everything they built begins to crumble beneath their own feet. That promotion they thought was theirs, gone. That recognition they felt entitled to, faded. Their once loyal allies, now distant, uncomfortable, silent. Their body fatigued, their mind clouded, their plans falling apart before they even begin. And through all of this, they still can't connect the dots, still convinced it's just bad luck, still denying the reality they're now forced to live through. Because to admit that you were protected would mean admitting they were out of line. But the universe isn't waiting for them to get it, it's showing them. Spiritual hierarchy isn't something you debate. It's something you experience when you overstep. And they overstepped. Big. So now they're not just losing, they're learning. Not by theory, not by concept, but by collapse. And the education is just getting started. Number 6. They came to break you, and broke themselves instead. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting the system that protects you. The moment of truth didn't come with thunder. It came in quiet shock, a stillness that made their stomach drop. What they had orchestrated with such effort, such secrecy, such determination, had not only failed, it had backfired. You didn't just survive their campaign, you thrived right through it. And that broke them in ways no retaliation ever could. While they expected your collapse, you were ascending. While they anticipated your downfall, you were walking into breakthroughs that didn't even require struggle. They watched, helpless, as the very things they had been clawing toward fell into your hands like they were tailor-made for you. And they were, because energy rewards alignment, not ambition. Imagine this. You're walking calmly, with your hands open. They're sprinting with clenched fists, chasing everything you're receiving effortlessly. But here's the catch. What's yours flows to you. What's not theirs will run from them. And no matter how many times they tried to cut your stream, the universe rerouted it faster than they could react. They saw it with their own eyes. Projects once held back from you, now landing in your lap with no resistance. Opportunities they whispered to block, now overflowing in your inbox. People they tried to turn against you, now advocating for your leadership. While they were still plotting, you were prospering. They tried to curse your harvest and had to watch you eat at a table they couldn't approach. Financially, the shift was undeniable. Where they expected you to struggle, you stabilized. Unexpected income, timely breakthroughs, delayed rewards, showing up right on time. Every attempt to drain your resources ended in new channels opening up. Even connections you thought were dormant sparked into life, bringing allies, mentors, supporters who moved you to higher ground with grace. Your personal life? Blooming. Relationships became deeper, truer, safer. New people entered who didn't need you to shrink or pretend. Even old wounds began to heal as stress lifted and harmony returned to your space. All the while, they fell, their reputation deteriorating, their energy drained, their inner circle fracturing, their mind spinning in confusion, unable to connect the dots that were now written in bold. Then came the revelation, the lightning moment that split their denial wide open. They realized you weren't just lucky, you were ranked. And the battle they had waged wasn't between two equals. It was a cosmic mismatch, like a spark trying to compete with the sun, like a feather challenging gravity, like an echo trying to drown the voice of a thunderclap. They had mistaken your humility for weakness, your quiet confidence for passivity, your low profile for lack of power, and that was their fatal error, because true spiritual rank doesn't advertise itself. It doesn't brag, it doesn't explain, it just moves, quietly aligned with the flow of the universe, causing shifts without warning and elevation without permission. You didn't cast a spell. You didn't need to chant. You didn't chase protection. You are protected because protection is woven into the very blueprint of who you are. And now they see it. Not in theory, not in warning, but in result. They aimed at you and shattered themselves. They waged war on your peace and lost their own. They thought they were challenging a person. They were defying a law. And the worst part for them? The realization that this was never a fair fight. Not because you overpowered them, but because they never had the right to touch what was sealed. And now they're being taught exactly what that means. Number 7. They jumped off a cliff and called it warfare, but gravity always wins. They didn't lose the battle. They leapt into their own downfall, thinking the universe would catch them. They came at you like warriors, but they fell like fools, not because you fought back, not because you clapped back, not because you even lifted a finger, but because they violated the laws of alignment and mistook it for cleverness. They weren't fighting you. They were defying gravity while pretending they could fly. And when they finally hit the ground, the silence was deafening. Imagine this. Someone climbs to the edge of a cliff, fueled by ego and envy, thinking they can defy nature itself. They laugh as they jump, confident they'll float. But what follows isn't a fight, it's a fall. Fast, hard, inevitable. And that's exactly what happened to them. They thought their tactics, rumors, sabotage, spiritual interference would bring you down. But the same forces that lifted you above it all didn't just shield you, they turned on them. The moment they became a threat to your alignment, the universe began rearranging consequences with surgical accuracy. Every curse they cast came back carrying their name. They didn't understand that spiritual law doesn't require belief to function. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't wait for apologies. It responds to energy, and energy doesn't lie. They threw darkness, and that darkness looped back. Not randomly, precisely. The job they tried to block for you? Now they were unemployed. The rumors they spread about your character? Now their inner circle started questioning everything about them. The financial stress they tried to manifest into your reality. Now their accounts were in the red and no opportunity in sight. And the most devastating part? The irony. Because every trap they set snapped shut on them. Every prayer they whispered in malice now echoed louder in their own home. The spiritual realm they tried to weaponize, now turning every law they misused back toward the source. They tried to manipulate the current, only to be swept away by the undertow. Meanwhile, you rose. Not just survived, not just endured. You evolved. This wasn't just a defense, it was an upgrade. Your spiritual clarity sharpened, your manifestations accelerated, your energy clean, expansive, untouchable. You didn't just make it out, you came out wiser, stronger, and ranked even higher than before, because what was meant to silence you only amplified you. What was meant to curse you only crowned you. And now the universe has one final message for the ones who fell. You never had the power to break what was cosmically sealed. Number 8. You didn't just survive the war, you graduated from it. You didn't win because you fought harder. You won because you didn't have to fight at all. The final truth settled in quietly but powerfully. You passed the test, not through retaliation, not through revenge, but through restraint. You walked through fire without raising your voice, and when the smoke cleared, it wasn't just that you were untouched. You had been transformed. You didn't crack. You didn't collapse. You didn't even react the way they expected. Because this was never just an attack, it was an activation. And while they spent themselves trying to expose your weakness, all they ended up doing was revealing your rank. The deeper the assault, the clearer your true power became. You found new levels of yourself. You realized that what you once called calm was actually wisdom. What you thought was silence was actually authority. And your refusal to engage in spiritual warfare wasn't fear. It was a reflection of your security in a law they had never studied. You passed not by fighting, but by knowing you didn't need to. Meanwhile, they fell apart, spiritually bankrupt, emotionally hollow, materially drained. Every ounce of energy they spent trying to harm you ricocheted straight back, multiplied, sharpened, and personalized by the very forces they tried to manipulate. They thought they were launching a strategic strike. They didn't know they were volunteering for a spiritual audit. Every second they spent plotting against you was a second lost to their own purpose. Every word of slander a blow to their own alignment. Imagine this. They were trying to kick down your door while their own house was burning behind them. And when they finally turned around, it was too late. The damage had already consumed everything they thought was safe. Now, some of them are trying to backpedal, smiling like nothing happened, dropping casual messages, acting normal again, as if time can erase energy. But the universe doesn't play pretend. Spiritual law isn't swayed by fake apologies or social masks. Once energy is released, it moves until it balances. Their attempts to rebuild the bridges they burned only highlighted the ashes beneath their feet. Others came forward in desperation, tried to explain themselves, tried to apologize, tried to negotiate with a system that doesn't work on pity but principle. And while true repentance can soften consequences, it can't reverse them. Because what's done in energy doesn't get erased, it gets answered. Some went even further, twisting the narrative, blaming you for the collapse they caused, accusing you of using unseen forces to ruin their lives. They whispered that you must have done something, that you must be the reason their world is crumbling. But you know the truth. They broke themselves trying to break you, and now they're haunted by the reflection of their own intent. You didn't cast a spell. You didn't seek revenge. You simply existed with protection that's written into your spiritual code. And they couldn't handle the outcome of a war they weren't qualified to start. Now they're left with consequences they can't dodge, and a truth they can't rewrite. You were always ranked far above the battlefield they dragged themselves into. And while they fumble for excuses, you stand unshaken, wiser, cleaner, and more elevated than ever. Not because of what you did to them, but because of what they revealed about you. You passed the test, and now nothing will ever be the same. Number 9. They tried to make an example of you, but the universe made an example of them. Some lessons don't need to be spoken. They echo through energy, felt by all who dare to watch. What started as a personal attack turned into a cosmic broadcast. The consequences didn't just land on your attackers, they rippled outward, loud and clear, into the unseen realms where intentions are watched and energy is currency. The universe didn't just respond, it made a statement, a warning, a message to everyone watching in silence, entertaining their own envy, playing with the idea of testing you next. Imagine this. A single lightning strike in the forest, meant to destroy one tree, lights up the whole sky. The others, standing at a distance, see the fire. They feel the heat. And just like that, the idea of touching that same power disappears from their minds completely. That's what happened here. Your attackers were the match, but you became the wildfire. Without lifting a hand, you became the living proof that spiritual rank isn't about appearances, titles, or noise. It's about essence, energy, design. And now, even those who once whispered against you in private are silent, because they saw what happened to the last ones who tried. Your silence became louder than their schemes, your rise more powerful than their resistance. Your reputation in the spiritual realm didn't grow because you defended yourself. It expanded because the ones who tried to ruin you collapsed in real time. People felt it. They sensed the shift, the same ones who doubted you. Now watching your life unfold with a respect they don't speak, but deeply feel. And those who once considered stepping against you, now think twice. They've seen enough. The outcome was too loud to ignore. Your protection has now evolved into prevention. The universe has put a mark on you, not for harm, but for honor. A silent but powerful signal. This one is sealed. Interfere, and you won't survive the lesson. You didn't just survive the attack. You became a cautionary tale to the dark and a beacon to the light. You didn't even know some of the realms your name had reached, but they know now. You walk with something ancient, something unshakable, something unspoken but universally understood. This test, though painful, gifted you something unbuyable, clarity. You now understand that your confidence was never ego. It was knowing. That quiet strength wasn't emptiness. It was divine authority silently doing its work. And now you've seen it with your own eyes. How the universe responds. How it rearranges the seen and unseen to protect what matters. How spiritual justice doesn't miss, doesn't forget, and doesn't ever require your permission to act. You don't carry power, you are power, and now everyone knows it. Your faith in the cosmic order is no longer based on hope. It's rooted in evidence, and your journey, your path, has never been clearer. You now walk with the kind of assurance that can't be shaken by opinions or opposition, because your spiritual rank isn't something you worked for. It isn't a title you earned through effort. It's something that was written into your essence long before you breathed your first breath. It was never about achieving, it was about remembering, and now you remember, now you know. So walk forward, chosen one. Future tests may come, yes, but now they come with no suspense. Because the outcome is already carved into reality, you rise, they fall, you are protected, they are warned, you are ranked, and that will never change. And so, chosen one, as this chapter closes, remember this. What was meant to destroy you only revealed the power that was always within you. The attacks, the pressure, the betrayal, it all confirmed what the universe already knew. You are spiritually ranked and untouchable by those who operate in shadows. Walk forward now with unshakable certainty. The test is over and you passed. If this message lit something in your spirit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop the number 777 in the comments to claim your power. Share this with someone who needs to remember who they are. Let's spread the light.